Hello, welcome back to Key Conversations, the podcast where we talk about all of the things to inspire you to have an amazingly fulfilling music career. Today, we are having a really special treat in Kaytee Long, who is the president and founder of DIY Music PR. Kaytee, thank you so much for taking time to be here.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm so excited.
I have to
we
say,
met at the DIY conference last year.
It was only last year.
I've known you forever.
I know. Well, I want to tell everyone like the special moment that I tell this moment all the time, how we met. And it was August at the CD Baby conference in Austin, Texas. And they had given me, after like years of speaking at this damn conference, they finally gave me the big room. And I was so thrilled. And I was looking at, there's all these dudes on the list for the day. And I came in and it was the morning, it was before any of the sessions had started. And I was coming in and the tech guy was like, oh, the person before you is just setting up her computer. So you can go and put your stuff up there. She'll do her talk and then you just come in and we'll be all ready. And I was like, great. And I come up to the stage and you're there setting up as well. And no one's in the room. And my memory is that I was like, hi, nice to meet you. And you're like, nice to meet you. And you looked at me, you're like, we did it. And then you're like, and you were like, we got this. And I was like, yeah, we do. And you're like, let's do Superwoman stance. And then we stood there. And if you're watching the video, we're doing it now. We did the Superwoman stance. And I just remember being like, I was like all sorts of like united with so many things. And it was just such a beautiful moment and so empowering to do that with this person I've never spoken to before. And then of course I mentioned your name anywhere and everyone, including the CEO of CD Baby, is like, oh, Kaytee Long. Yeah, she's amazing. She's like the most magical unicorn you'll ever meet. So.
Oh my God, stop.
That's true.
You're too much, but I love that. I have a very similar memory. And honestly, I was just, I was very nervous. That was a large room. So I was just really trying to, the Superwoman stance really, really can help.
Oh yeah, I watched that TED Talk.
Thank you for being my partner in crime for that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I love it. So you've done a ton of PR. You've had like all of these crazy, awesome jobs. Will you just sort of like hit on the different industries that you've done PR for?
Oh gosh, sure. I've been in PR for over a decade, and I've worked in wellness, music, obviously, design, hospitality, travel. So kind of just all over the board. And that speaks to my theory of DIY PR, right? How it kind of just translates. Once you know the steps for a PR campaign, you can really apply it to whatever you're trying to promote in any scenario.
That's awesome. Can you define, so we're all on the same, like very, very basic 101 page, what PR stands for and what it actually means?
Oh, sure. That's going to be different to, I think, every professional really, but public relations, you're talking to the public. When you're a musician, you're talking to your fan base and really trying to engage your fan base. And, they're almost like you want to find those 1,000 raving fans, right? So you want those people that are going to stand by you. You can support them. They can support you. And, that's the basis in music. When you go beyond music, a lot of it is like reputation, consulting, and making sure you're presenting your brand correctly to your audience or to your fan base or your clients, whoever it may be, your customers. So that's the gist of it. It's really how you're representing yourself when you're public facing and interacting with your people.
I think as a musician, I know that I collapse PR with marketing. And I'm curious, as someone who owns a PR agency specifically for musicians, how much of what you're doing is actually marketing to the fans or potential fans or bloggers so that they can get out to the fans. How much of that is what you do?
Well, PR falls under marketing, right? So it's all marketing, but PR is just a very niche initiative because you're actually reaching out to writers who are going to write about your music or feature your music. And the difference there is that third party credibility. So if you're running an ad, which ads can be very impactful, and I'm not, downplaying them at all, but third party credibility, when you're running an ad, you are talking about yourself per se, right? But when you're doing a public relations campaign and you find a champion, which would be the writer, that person is writing about you. And so that person usually already has the trust of an audience. So when their audience reads their article about you, the audience already trusts the writer, and it's more of a powerful tool to have them actually go to your Spotify page and check out your music, because they're like, oh, this person likes, Cheryl, so I'm going to go check out I Am Luminary, on Spotify.
Yeah. Awesome.
But to kind of expand on that, at what we do for our clients, we don't just limit it to PR. We kind of go above and beyond in whatever capacity we can. That's not usually ads, but any way that if we're creating like a unique contest or something that falls beyond the lines of conventional PR, then that's super important, and we're going to do that for our people.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to frame it. Sort of everything is marketing, and then PR is the part where you're getting someone else to do the work for you almost. Yeah, I love that. It's the third party, the trust factor that's not present when you're just throwing out an ad and hoping that your copy is going to do what it needs to do. So, yeah, that's really cool. So shifting gears a little bit, if we're talking about, I would love to talk about pre-release, what an independent artist can do before the release and how much time do they need. And then once that record's released, how can you ride any successes you've had from that record? So there's sort of two questions here. What would you suggest an artist that's like, I'm going to do PR myself, maybe because they don't have a budget to hire or they have some contacts of their own that they want to nurture, but what's the timeline and what would you suggest leading up to that release date?
Yeah, great question. Because I think one of the top kind of snafus that I see independent artists do is they don't give themselves enough time prior to their release. Because when you're doing a PR campaign, it definitely requires about a 4 to 6 week lead time prior to your actual release date. And that is once all of your music is ready to roll, it's mixed and mastered, and it's if there's a music video, the video is complete. So you definitely 4 to 6 weeks. If it's your first campaign, I would recommend 6 weeks, because you want to gather your marketing materials that you're going to use, right? So you want to have an EPK that you can direct the press to that you're reaching out to, right? And so that's a private website that hosts your music that's not released, has your bio, has your promotional photos, it has links to all of your socials, your Spotify, your Apple Music, everything. Because when you're pitching someone, and I'm sure we'll go into this shortly, but you want to make it short and sweet. So with your EPK, you have a place that you can direct them for them to learn more, and they can learn anything and everything about you that they have ever wanted to know, right? But you don't put that in your email because that's overwhelming. So definitely your EPK, you want to make sure you have a bio created, which is going to then be placed in your EPK. A lot of times people have a press release. And then you want to be able to craft a really impactful pitch that's going to create curiosity. So why would this writer spend the time to listen to your music and premiere your music video or write a feature about you? What makes you different from the other millions of independent artists out there? And why would this specific person be interested in you?
I love that. Yeah. So there's some stuff to set up. There's actually it's not 6 weeks and then you start making all this stuff. It's like, you have to have the EPK, the bio, the stuff ready to go so that you can start with these pitches and give yourself enough time for them to read it, to do some follow-up. all of that stuff. And then for them to actually like get it up onto their sites and do all the things they need to do on their end. Right.
Exactly. Because, and 2 points there, one of them is the editorial calendars of these outlets, these press outlets fill up in advance. So people are planning, writers are planning, sometimes a month in advance. And I'm talking online publications. If it's long lead, which would be print, then we're talking, months in advance that you're doing this. But for, Pitchfork or Consequence Sound or any of those blogs, people are planning their editorial calendars weeks out. So you want to make sure that you're prepared and not hurting your chances with all the work that you're doing by just being too late to the game. The other thing that you do want to have prepared is a list. So you want to create your own little database of writers that you want to reach out to. And that could be writers, that could be even YouTube channels or influencers, anyone that would be a candidate to share your music, right? And the way that you're going to stand out to these people is by finding writers who would specifically be interested in you. So if you're a female pop act, you don't want to reach out to someone who only writes about, reggae, old school reggae. Not going to work for you. But if you have an artist that you kind of compare yourself to, my recommendation would be Googling that artist and finding what publications and what writers are covering that person, because that will help you build your list and actually give you, a realistic approach, because you're dealing with a lot of competition here, right? So we want to make sure that the hard work that you're putting in is actually going to go somewhere. And when you know that you're reaching out to someone who would cover your type of music, then you're definitely ahead of the game.
Awesome. So what are the things that you have to shift, or what are the highlights that are different before the album was released versus after? I mean, once the album's released, you can still have that same EPK. You still have your list of people you can outreach to. So you've sort of set yourself up. So what are the differences between pitching for press before it's released versus after it's released?
Well, honestly, with press, most of the pitching happens prior to the release, because with music press specifically, it's kind of old news after the music is released, right? Unless, like I Am Luminary gets put on, number 1 on Amazon, then that's totally...
You're so cute. The record's called Luminary, but the website is I Am a Luminary. So I'm just so people are like, what is she talking about? Because I've been talking about Luminary. This whole season is about just sort of telling my story of releasing Luminary. So you're so cute, but I wanted to just say that. Go ahead.
I've been on your website a lot recently, so that's where I got that from.
There you go. Yeah, perfect, which I appreciate.
But, then there's a secondary story to the actual release happening, right? And then that can be content for you to pitch post-release. But most of the time, the news is that there's new music, right? So when you're pitching media, you need to make sure that you have something new to present to them. Otherwise, they're not going to take an interest. Go ahead, Cheryl.
So you can even use, if you're doing the single release model where you're releasing a single and then you're releasing another single and then the record comes out, each one of those singles is a whole new opportunity to reach out to the people that may have said no before, or if they said yes, you can say, cool, I have even new stuff. You like the last thing, right? You can use them both to your advantage.
100%. You're exactly right. And that is actually the model that I recommend, because it gives you that many more chances to reach out to your contacts. Because truthfully, if it's the first time you're releasing music and the first time you're reaching out to these writers or bloggers, you might not get a response. And, I might not get a response. It doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes it takes time and multiple attempts to be able to actually reach the person and get them to take notice. So, my favorite motto is PR is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Because, if you have these expectations that you're going to do this PR campaign and then become, the next Ariana Grande overnight, it's not going to happen most likely, unless something goes viral randomly. But I want you to have really realistic expectations that this does take time and it is worth it, but it does take multiple attempts most of the time to reach these people. So when you're doing a single model, you're able to, reach out to those people multiple times with new content, because the last thing you want to do is reach out to the same person over and over and over, but still, but not have new information, right? Because the point of a pitch, it's like you're selling something, right? You want to give them content that piques their interest.
Yeah, awesome. So great. So the name of the game is really, it's all the work leading up to the release. Totally got that. And I'm still going to ask my next question anyway. So let's say you had a release and you did whatever you did on the release and you want to keep going. You're like, okay, there's more that I could do. What's the best way to spin something that's been released and not like 10 years ago released, but recently released? Or is there a way that you can still have luck with press, and maybe it's not reviews, obviously it's not going to be premieres, but is there a way to still do effective PR post-release?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple different layers to that. It depends, if there's a secondary topic, like your song gets put on the Billboard charts or goes to the top of Amazon or something like that, then yes, absolutely. There's definitely, Cheryl's like, yeah, but there's definitely an opportunity there. It has to be intriguing. It has to be, it's not something that your mom tells you is newsworthy. It's something that, BuzzFeed is telling you is newsworthy. So that doesn't always happen though. And that's okay, or what if there's like, I have an artist who is going to be doing a Peloton ride, right? So that's, if you're familiar with it, they feature artists and such. So that's big news. That's exciting, right? So that's something that you can use, then we will be using to present to the media. Another route that you could take is Spotify playlisting. And while that's not press per se, I still keep it in the same category because you're still pitching people. And it's a very similar process. And with Spotify pitching, it doesn't matter if it's after release day. It's even better if it's after release day in a lot of cases, if you're working with independent curators, because they can actually, they work pretty much to the day, right? So if you have the Spotify link available, they can just go click on it and
right, which is tricky to do if it's the pre-release because they can't actually listen to it
right.
on Spotify. You have to go work around. So, well, that's really great. So last sort of area I wanted to ask you about is how does an artist balance hiring a firm versus doing it themselves? And what are some resources? What is one particular resource that an artist could go to learn about how to do PR themselves?
Oh, well, it's, I have artists come to me that are just at the beginning of their career and they've heard about publicity and they think it's the right step to take. And sometimes it is, but I personally recommend doing it yourself for the beginning of your career until you start getting traction, that it's just beyond your capacity, or I wouldn't want an independent artist to be spending thousands of dollars, because PR is not cheap if you hire someone, thousands of dollars on something that they could be doing themselves, because you have the full potential to do it, especially in the music industry. A lot of times bloggers actually appreciate hearing from the artist when it's done correctly. So that's the key is, you need to make sure you're presenting yourself in a professional manner. So the way that you can do that, I actually have an online course that is called the DIY Music PR Boot Camp. And that's what I teach you. And I would highly recommend, there are other people that do that as well. And I would highly recommend using one of those resources, whether it's mine or not, to learn how to do it yourself. Because then even once you get to that level where it's time to hire someone, you understand the process. And I think as a PR professional, that's one of the things that I have struggled with at certain times with clients, is the client not understanding the process of PR and how it takes time, and it's not always fruitful. But then, a month later, you get a massive hit that completely changes the scale of your business, so it just kind of like, things take time. And if you are aware of that, you actually really appreciate hiring someone and putting your money there. And then also, you know what your money is going towards and how valuable it is. So.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I am so excited because I've done the DIY music PR bootcamp, and I love everything I got. I have like pages and pages of notes that I always refer back to. And you all listeners know that I never promote anything that I haven't done personally. So that's what In the Key Academy is. So I'm very excited to announce officially that I'm going to have the bootcamp, the PR bootcamp in the Key Academy. So that's really exciting. inthekey.co/academy. And, that will be awesome. It'll also be in the show notes. Where can we find you online? Where's your favorite place to hang out if people just want to sort of follow you and get in touch and absorb by osmosis your awesomeness?
Oh, you're so sweet. My favorite place to hang out. Instagram, I guess. So my personal handle is at Kaytee Long, and that's Kaytee Long, LONG. And then on the DIY page, we share a lot of, insights and motivational quotes, things to just kind of keep morale up, especially right now. And that's at DIY Music PR.
Awesome. These will all be in the show notes, but it's good to hear. Anything that you haven't said that you want to say, any tips or last minute tricks? We covered a lot, so I really appreciate it. But if there's anything else that you want to make sure that musicians hear.
I just love you. I'm so excited to be on this, and thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for our power stance moment that we had and the friendship that it's kind of blossomed into. It's been really great. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Mwah.
Mwah.